But first, the obsession with Aboriginal identity, Aboriginal culture, it's everywhere, and it's extraordinary. And it's attacking some of the strengths of this Western culture that's made all of us so rich and free. Now, last week, the New South Wales Environment Protection Authority announced 2 more appointments, 2 new experts. One, an Aboriginal board member, a traditional ecological knowledge holder, and the second, a world-renowned climate scientist. Now, the idea that race is now a qualification for a board position is to me an offence against our intelligence. And a traditional ecological knowledge holder, what exactly is that? Well, said the EPA chairman, it's someone who will bring an important perspective to our work that comes from 65,000 years of environmental stewardship and deep knowledge of this land. Now that, of course, is unscientific nonsense. No one can know for sure what knowledge of the land Aborigines had 65,000 years ago, or even 1,000. That's one of the tragedies of not having a written culture, no records. We can also only guess at bits and pieces of what they believe from relics and limited archaeological evidence. The idea that the knowledge was passed on accurately over thousands of years just by parents telling children who then told their children, that's just a romantic fantasy. I mean, why did Tasmanian Aborigines suddenly lose the knowledge they once obviously had of catching and eating scaled fish, or of making canoes? Now, there are certainly things that Aborigines did know and know very well about living off the land. But surely you don't need to be Aboriginal to pick out what's still useful today. Now, that's one thing. The other thing is this devaluing of the Western scientific method that's absorbed knowledge from all over the world, from all sorts of cultures, plus the ideal, of course, of long, deep scholarship, where the race is irrelevant. This indigenous knowledge expert, who's now a board member of the EPA, I won't name him, and for all I know is a brilliant man. He's still, though, a PhD student. True is also an associate professor in Indigenous water science. I didn't know that water science was Indigenous based. It depended on your race. That said, an associate professor is usually supposed to have finished their PhD. But as I say, this man, no doubt, is exceptionally bright, which is probably why the New South Wales EPA picked him for its board, and not someone else with higher qualifications. Now, you might say, as we often hear today, that being Aboriginal makes you understand better than most how to care for our nature. As the EPA chairman himself said, 65,000 years of environmental stewardship. Yet on the other hand, the ABC is now pushing for Aborigines to be excused from some basic laws to protect some of our species of animals from becoming endangered or overfished or overhunted. And I've got to ask what the environmental stewardship is in that. Here's a recent ABC report.
Commonwealth Native Title Law recognises the right of traditional owners to hunt and gather according to their own law and custom.
Like hunting dugongs, for instance, or abalone. If you're an Aboriginal in New South Wales and claim that you're doing cultural fishing, you can take 10 abalone. If you're of any other race, you can take just 2. But even this partial exemption from a law to protect our wildlife still doesn't go far enough from some activists in the usually environmentally sensitive ABC.
I think there's been millions and millions of dollars that it costs the New South Wales taxpayers to try and prosecute us for something that we own.
They own it, they can hunt it, and they can eat it, even if Western scientific knowledge actually says, hang on, we should be conserving this. So you can see the clash. And that's even before you wonder what is so cultural and traditional about the hunting that the ABC filmed in its report. An abalone hunter in a wetsuit and flippers and goggles. The only thing traditionally Aboriginal about all that was the man inside that wetsuit, his ancestors. Some of them, not all of them, some of them. Now this is just one small example, but every day there are more of this rise of racial divisions, racial double standards, and a pandering that makes us seem more foolish by the day.